This is the only way in or out of Arsal. Dozens of military checkpoints surround the remote border town. Arsal is only a few kilometers away from the Syrian border and is home to over 100,000 Syrian refugees, which is more than double the local population. Al Jazeera was given rare access by the Lebanese army, provided we didn't show the faces of soldiers. Senior army commanders say they monitor these streets day and night because hundreds of ISIL fighters are in the surrounding area and often attempt to launch attacks. FATIMA EZZEDDINE has lived in Arsal her entire life. She says since the start of the Syrian uprising nearly 7 years ago, life in the town has become unbearable.
My brother was a chief warrant officer with the army and he was killed by ISIL. They killed him in front of his children right here in Arsal. Everybody stood there watching. Nobody did anything. People have too much fear here.
EZZEDDINE's brother was killed in 2014 in what was one of the worst spillovers of violence from the Syrian war into Lebanon. For 5 days, the Lebanese army fought battles against ISIL and rival al-Nusra Front, now known as Jabhat Fateh al-Sham. 30 fighters from the armed groups were killed in the fighting, along with 10 soldiers. To this day, 9 Lebanese soldiers kidnapped by ISIL remain in their custody. Army commanders say they are now carrying out an intensive campaign not only to get their men back, but to put ISIL out of Lebanon for good. In the past month, the Lebanese military has received 2 shipments of weapons from the United States as part of their fight against ISIL. Soldiers have been given heavy weaponry in order to deal with this threat, but many fear that it's going to require a lot more than weapons in order to defeat ISIL. It's a feeling shared by WAED HOJEIRI, a longtime resident of Arsal. She says the presence of ISIL here has created an impression across Lebanon that locals support the armed group, and that the sense of marginalization felt by many here could push some of them to join.
Outside Arsal, they think that we are Daesh, or we are Jabhat al-Nusra, or we are terrorists. For that, outside Arsal we can't live, and inside Arsal we can't live.
In a recent televised address, Hassan Nasrallah, the leader of the Hezbollah movement, which is closely aligned with Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, said most of Lebanon's borders have been cleared of the threat of ISIL and that Arsal was next. But even if the Lebanese military, along with Hezbollah, managed to push ISIL and other armed groups out of the area, the sense of suspicion felt by some here is likely to remain. Imtiaz, Tyab, Al Jazeera, Arsal, near the Lebanese-Syrian border.